Good evening, everyone. It's 6:31 p.m. and we're about to commence our agenda briefing forum, the first one of the year. So welcome back to all elected members and the town staff. We will begin with an acknowledgement of country, and I invite Councillor Anderson to read the acknowledgement.
Nang Jarapan Wajak Nunga, Bujak Yankeni, Nija Bilia Barok. I am honoured to be standing on Wajak Nunga country on the banks of the Swan River. Nang Kadach Nunga Mort, Ken Kadach Nija Wajak Nunga Bujak, Nang Kadach Nija Nunga, Bilia Kora, Yeye, Bora, Belpeni Morich, Nunga Kadajan, Mort We Buja Yeye. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and respect past, present and emerging leaders. Their continuing cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with the land which continues to be important today. Nang Yanka Balpeni Nunga, Beria were Mort Nija Buja. I thank them for their contribution made to life in the town of Victoria Park and to this region.
Thanks, Councillor Anderson. Item 4 on the agenda is announcements from the presiding member. 4.1, purpose of the agenda briefing forum. The purpose of this forum is to provide an opportunity for elected members to ask questions and obtain additional information on officer reports in the draft Ordinary Council meeting agenda. It is not a decision-making forum, nor is it open for debate. Members of the public that may be directly affected by an item on the agenda can make presentations, deputations, statements and ask questions prior to the matter being formally considered by Council at the next Ordinary Council meeting. 4.2, notice of recording and live streaming. All participation in this forum will be audio and visually recorded and live streamed on the town's website. The live stream will be archived and made available on the town's website after the meeting. 4.3, conduct of meeting. All those in attendance are expected to extend due courtesy and respect to the meeting by refraining from making any adverse or defamatory remarks regarding council, the town staff or any elected member. No one shall create a disturbance at a meeting by interrupting or interfering with the proceedings through expressing approval or dissent, by conversing or by any other means. All questions and statements made by members of the public are not to personalise any elected member or member of staff. Questions and statements are to be directed to the presiding member, who may choose to call upon an officer of the town or another elected member to assist with responses. 4.4, public participation time. There is an opportunity to ask questions and make statements at the beginning and the end of this forum. The opportunity to ask questions and make statements at the end of the forum is limited to those members of the public who did not participate in the first public participation time at this forum. Public participation time will be held for a maximum of 30 minutes. Any additional time must be by agreement from those in attendance at the forum by way of elected members, and it will be in 5-minute increments. As per my usual practice, there's a limit of 3 questions per person and 2 minutes for statements. 4.5 is questions taken on notice. Responses to any questions taken on notice that relate to the agenda items will be presented in the officer report for the Ordinary Council meeting agenda under the heading Further Consideration. Item 5 is attendance. We have all elected members in attendance except for Councillor Melrose, who has offered his apologies for tonight. We also have a number of members of the town's executive staff in attendance, led by the CEO, Mr. Carl Askew. There's no one on approved leave of absence. Item 6 is declarations of interest. Mr. CEO, do we have any declarations of interest, please?
Thank you, Mayor Vernon. No, I've received none.
Thank you. Elected members, is there anyone who has an interest that they need to declare that hasn't already done so? Councillor Ingram.
Thank you, Mayor Vernon. I'd just like to raise a declaration of interest for proximity regarding the Star Street and Lion Street roundabout. I live immediately proximate to that.
Okay, so this is in relation to item 13.3. And so it's Councillor Ingram. Councillor Ingram, can I ask, did you receive some advice from the town's governance team with regards to this, given that proximity interest for Local Government Act is very, very specific about what constitutes proximity? So it's not proximate to the area, it actually has a defined term, and usually you often need to look at cadastral maps to work out if you have a proximity. And the reason I raise that with you is that proximity will preclude you from being a part of the decision making on this as well as the discussion. So might want to think about that. If any questions come up about it tonight, you will need to leave the room given you've declared this now, but I would encourage you to perhaps speak to the town staff about whether you do have a proximity, because you need to have a property that adjoins the development, like either side or behind you or directly across the road on cadastral boundaries. So that's the one that can be tricky. So being in the near vicinity or really close to it might not actually mean you actually have a proximity interest. But for now, we'll note that down, and we'll need you to submit a form for that in due course later at the end of the meeting. But I've recorded that you have a property that is proximate to the roundabout. Is there anyone else who has a interest that they need to declare? All right, well, just a reminder, if you think you do have one and it comes up as we're progressing through, please let me know as soon as possible. Thank you. Next is item 7, public participation time, which I'll now open at 6:37 p.m. On my list for public participation time, Vince Maxwell, please come forward, state your name and suburb for our record, and then we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Mayor. Vince Maxwell from Victoria Park. I have some questions on item 13.1, the Elizabeth Bailey Park investigation. The Ratepayers Association have sent several letters to the town and to yourself, Mayor and councillors, about the arborist reports in connection with the trees that were described by the town as unhealthy and or exotic. Have you, Mayor, personally reviewed the arborist reports concerning the trees described by the town as unhealthy or exotic?
Look, Mr. Maxwell, I want to be fair to you here, but the rules are the rules. And the rules with regards to agenda briefing forum is that the questions need to be about the items in the agenda. So you're now talking about arborist reports about tree health at what particular point in time? Are you talking about arborist reports that will be the subject of the investigation? Are you talking about arborist reports from previously, which you have written to us about? So historical arborist reports.
I would have expected, if you're doing an ICAM investigation into this Elizabeth Bailey Park trees, that all those things would be included in that.
Well, Mr. Maxwell, I'm not a part of the investigation team for obvious reasons, so I haven't participated in any form of reading of reports, anything like that for the purposes of an investigation the town's undertaking. I've read reports that are available and have been presented to council for prior resolutions in prior agendas when the Elizabeth Bailey Park project was being put forward. And if memory serves me correct, the last of those decision making would have been made in 2023. So that's as much as I can tell you. You asked me the question to me personally, that's where I'm at. I've had no part in the investigation except to receive updates as to how it's progressing.
Okay, so just to be clear, so recently, in the last couple of months, you have not reviewed any of the arborist reports?
No.
Yeah.
As I say, the only access I have is to reports that are on council agendas. I've not been given any other reports. So I think from memory there were some arborist reports or summaries or schedules back between 2021 and 2023. That's my recollection of what might have been attached to the council agendas back then, but I haven't re-looked at any of those recently.
Okay, thank you. The CEO informed us that, in his view, these arborist reports are technical documents requiring professional context to interpret accurately. What specific qualifications, certifications or professional accreditations does a person need to competently interpret these reports?
I'll direct that question to the CEO since you say that this is his view. Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mayor Vernon. I will take the question on notice. It's a question Mr. Maxwell has already written to me and asked for, and I will, now that I'm back from leave, respond.
Thank you. So we'll take that on notice. Mr. Maxwell?
Okay, I look forward to that. I assume the other questions that are in that same letter will be responded to.
That's right, Mr Maxwell. The CEO has just returned from annual leave yesterday, so I'm
Okay.
sure he's working his way through a lot of stuff that's come in the last month.
So just wanted to know why the town is continue to refuse direct access to arborist reports and instead directs requests through the FOI process, given that these reports are not exempt under the FOI Act.
Mr CEO?
I might refer that one to the CFO in terms of FOI, in terms of the requirements there.
Mr Old?
I'll do my best to give a response we may have to take some of that on notice. I'm not an absolute expert on FOI. There is a presumption that they are exempt under the FOI Act. I cannot say that is true or not true. I haven't read them myself. So therefore, the assessment is being done under the application as to what can be released or not. But I'll take I think we take the bulk of that question on notice.
All right, we'll take that question of yours on notice, Mr Maxwell.
Okay. One final question. In the Elizabeth Bailey Park development down there, did you buy wood chips in, or were there sufficient chips from the trees that you cut down?
That's not relevant, Mr Maxwell, to any item that is on the agenda. So you can ask that question at the ordinary council meeting in 2 weeks' time. Since there isn't anybody else in the audience, do you have any other questions or you wish to make a statement?
I'll just make a statement if you don't mind.
Thank you.
I just want to point out that arborist reports are professional assessments paid for by ratepayers to guide decisions about public trees. Electors have a right to see these reports, and council has a duty to ensure transparency. Describing these reports as technical documents does not remove the obligation to provide access, and expecting the public to rely solely on administration summary undermines proper oversight. Directing all requests through the FOI process, when the reports are not exempt, is inefficient, it wastes public resources and delays scrutiny on matters of public interest, including the removal of trees. Good governance requires openness and accountability. Withholding these reports erodes trust, and it sends the wrong message that public information will be managed behind closed doors rather than shared with the community. When public information is withheld, it is not governance at work, it is secrecy, and the community deserves better. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Maxwell. Given that there's no one else in the public gallery, I'll close public participation time at 6:44 p.m. Thank you. Item 8 is presentations. There are none. Item 9, deputations. There are none. Item 10, method of dealing with agenda business. As per our usual practice, this is where we get elected members to indicate which items on the agenda they have questions that they wish to ask about, and those are the only items on the agenda that we proceed with at this agenda briefing forum. So far, I have received notice that there are elected member questions in relation to item 12.1, Community Group and Club Development Plan application, and item 12.2, response to WAPC Station Precincts improvement plans. Are there any other items on the agenda that elected members are wishing to ask questions about tonight? Because I'd like you to tell me the item numbers now so we can add them to the list. And equally, those elected members who have questions about items 12.1 and 12.2, if you're not planning to pursue them at tonight's briefing forum, if you could let me know now and we'll take them off the list. So I'm taking that from that silence. There are no other items on the agenda that anyone wants to ask questions about. So it's looking very brief. But let's start with 12.1, which is part of the Chief Community Planner reports. So we have questions in relation to 12.1, the Community Group and Club Development Plan adoption. Councillor Cruiser.
Thank you. The majority of these have been answered well by staff, but I just have a couple of follow-up questions. The first is, will the annual review of clubs and groups that is undertaken by town staff intended to include a review of all clubs and groups in the town of Victoria Park?
Refer that to the Chief Community Planner, Mr Doy.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. To be accurate in my response, I'll take that on notice, just to be certain.
All right, we'll take that on notice.
And the other question that I have is when it comes to evaluating some of those top level outcomes, like supporting inclusion and diversity across the clubs and groups, do we gather data on the demographics of people who participate in clubs and groups in the town of Victoria Park?
Mr. Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Thanks for the question. We do, but in doing that, we do rely on data that comes through from those clubs and community groups. I will take it on notice as well, just so I can provide a little bit more information so you have everything that you need.
Councillor Cruiser?
And my final question is, do we have any data or have we done any surveys or work around gender equity when it comes to accessing town leisure facilities, sports ovals, funding and so on?
Mr. Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. To my awareness, it's only been on a facility by facility basis, not across the board, but just to be certain, I'll take it on notice as well. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who has any questions about 12.1 that they would like to ask? Councillor Ingram?
Thank you, Mayor Vernon. Just regarding the policy and the draft that was constructed, I noticed that there was suggestions for amendment that was sent through via email. I'm just wondering if those have been accepted and the town intends to accept those amendments as they were suggested.
So, sorry, Councillor Ingram, what amendments are you referring to?
There was a couple of specific phrasing amendments to clarify certain points that I believe Councillor Crozer has raised via email. I was just curious if those changes have been agreed to or not.
I'm not sure that I understood what Councillor Cruiser sent through was anything more than a series of questions for the town to consider. I'm not sure. My recollection is there were some questions about whether certain things could consider to be included, but since the answers to those questions I think came through quite late in the piece before us starting this, I'm not sure that I can say whether the town would be suggesting at this stage at agenda briefing forum that they're looking to make or not make any changes, because nobody knows if anyone is willing to pursue those matters subject to the answers. But Mr. Doy, would that be fair to say? I don't think we're at the stage of the town accepting anything to be changed at this stage.
No, so, and maybe the answer that was provided to council wasn't sufficiently clear, but any change to the plan that's been put forward by administration would require an amendment from council. There was one question that related to wording of the vision in the plan, and it was to include the word support in the vision, and in our response we provided our position on what we think about that change. Similarly, there was also a question to do with the use of the word amongst as it related to increasing inclusion and diversity in community groups and clubs. Again, administration provided its view on what it thinks about that change, but again, it would have to be subject to an amendment. Yep.
And in that circumstance, Councillor Ingram, meaning an elected member driven amendment. So somebody seeking to try and put that forward, to make that as an amendment to the document that's already in existence. So it might be that elected members take a view that that is something they want to see included and they'll seek to amend it, or they might consider that they don't need to put forward that amendment. They might be satisfied there are other ways that that gets dealt with. But at the moment, nobody's indicated as yet they're looking to make such an amendment. Did you have another question about this item?
No, thank you very much for the clarification.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions about this item? I do have a couple of questions about what is 12.1.2, the attachment, the plan's public comment engagement report. So I wonder if it's possible, and apologise that I didn't give any advance notice of this question, but it says at the beginning of the document, very interestingly about the demographic, question 1, are you a member of a community group or club based in or catering to residents of the town? And 16 of the 25 responses said yes, but 9 responses said no. What do we know and understand about the benefit of receiving feedback from people who are not a member of a community group or club based in or that caters to residents of the town? Mr. Doy?
That's a really good question, Mayor Vernon. I'll take that on notice as well, just to be able to provide a proper response. Thanks.
Thank you. My next question in relation to this same document has question 2. It says, please specify, meaning, as I'm assuming, please tell us which club you or group you belong to. And so the 16 people, we've got sort of a lot of people from the Curtin Victoria Park Cricket Club saw it as an opportunity to clearly put in quite a few responses, whereas many of the other groups identified are all discrete. Are you able to tell us whether, in relation to the 16 responses that we had that did come from a member of a community group or club based in or catering to residents of the town, how many of the submissions were the club submission versus a submission by an individual person? So where they listed their clubs that they hailed from, are any of those actually a club or organisation submission? Mr. Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. My understanding is that the majority of those are club submissions, but 11 to 16, which is 6 submissions from the Curtin Victoria Park Cricket Club, yes, it would be useful to know whether that is 6 club submissions or whether they're individuals from from the same club. So I will find out. And actually, just if you don't mind, to answer your previous question, that question will be there as a filtering question, because we will get submissions, and we have got submissions from clubs that will have many members from the Town of Victoria Park community outside of the town, but they've got people in the Town of Victoria Park participating that have made a submission. That helps us to determine the nature of the responses. Otherwise, we treat them all the same. So that does give us an understanding of who's submitting.
So one of the reasons I asked this question relates to the later data, which was the free-form contributions by individuals. And I noted there seemed to be some repetition amongst the answers by some of the respondents to the survey, indicating that we are focusing incorrectly on supporting the development of clubs and community organisations that operate within the town. And there seems to be some suggestion that we ought to be looking at clubs and organisations that are not necessarily based entirely in the town. For the purposes of having a community group and club development plan, what is the town's view about that? Is our view that essentially ratepayer funds should be spent on community clubs and organisations that actually are based in the town, as opposed to one that is, say, based outside the town, but might happen to be accessed or utilised by people in the town? Because clearly there's going to be a limit to what we can do here. So I noted it in the comments. I'm interested to know what the town thinks about that. Mr. Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. I feel that is a straightforward response, in that our focus should be on supporting and enabling the ongoing maturity and evolution of our clubs within the town, not those outside of the town.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions about 12.1? No? All right, we'll go on to 12.2, which is the response to the WAPC Station Precincts Improvement Plans. Mr. Doy, you get to be in the hot seat again. Councillor Minson, you've got some questions about this item.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Vernon. So the first question, could the town offer an opinion on likely timeframes for the improvement plan to be finalised and an improvement scheme prepared and then any associated structure plans developed?
Mr Doy.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. As the town isn't preparing the improvement plans and schemes, it is difficult to identify the timeframes for their development, other than to say the state government, via their recent media announcements prior to Christmas, has indicated the measure is a priority. Any estimate of timeframes is speculative, but it is a question that we will continue to ask in our dealings with state government.
Councillor Minson.
Thank you. Just a follow-on question to that one. So does the town have an opinion, I guess, comparing the process proposed by the state government compared to, I guess, adopting our draft precinct structure plans? What would, I guess, deliver the objectives in that proposed improvement plan faster?
Mr Doy.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. It is our opinion, as evidenced in the one of the attachments in the letter to the state, that the town has significantly progressed planning work around the Oat Street Station precincts via the preparation of its structure plan, and that it would be efficient to simply progress with the assessment of that.
Councillor Minson.
Thank you. Does the town have any specific feedback on the proposed improvement plan, particularly the spatial plan at the end of the document, or the objectives, particularly if there would be benefit to suggesting the planned area does not include areas covered by our existing draft structure plans?
Mr Doy.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Thanks for the question. Yes, so identifying land within an 800-metre radius of a train station, while accepted strategic planning practice, is a very high-level starting point for further planning. But the town understands that the plan facilitates the development of an improvement scheme, which, subject to further analysis from us, will provide a more definitive, and from the state, will provide a more definitive boundary and clarification or an extension of the objectives for the improvement plan. The town will obviously engage with the Department of Planning during this process and the planning for the Oat Street Station Precinct Structure Plan and the Carlisle Town Centre via LPS2 and Albany Highway Precinct Structure Plan around the St James Town Centre will help inform the town's position on what an appropriate boundary is, and we'll be providing that feedback to the Department of Planning.
Thank you. Next question. Does the town have any suggested amendments to the improvement plan, I guess, to allow for the integration of the existing draft Albany Highway Precinct Structure Plan and the Oat Street Station Precinct Structure Plan now that could be, I guess, worded into the proposed improvement plan?
Mr Doy.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Thanks for the question. The town does not have any amendments to the improvement plan because the current improvement plan holds, obviously it holds very little consequential information, and it's not largely intended to. It's a mechanism to facilitate the further work in the improvement scheme. So as I say, it will be the improvement scheme that holds the critical rules and the further definition of the boundary of the extent of the improvement scheme. Those rules, the improvement scheme will hold the critical rules for future development. The town will seek to engage with the department in the development of that scheme. This will include the town seeking to integrate provisions from our already supported Oat Street Station Precinct Structure Plan, the Albany Highway Precinct Structure Plan, and Local Planning Scheme Number 2.
A follow-up question on the past two questions. So within the improvement plan, one of the critical bits is that it has the list of objectives, is my understanding. Would it be appropriate, I guess, to have an objective of this improvement plan guiding the next level of improvement schemes or scheme to come, that it identifies an objective is to utilise, I guess, existing structure plans when aligned to the objectives of the improvement plan?
Mr Doy.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Yeah, I would see that as an appropriate recommendation.
Thank you. Next question was, has the town had any communication with other impacted local governments? And if so, what is their general position?
Mr Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Informally, we have, yes. Some of the local governments seem to be preparing to engage with the Department of Planning using their existing planning framework where it exists in the similar way that I just described with our recently approved structure plans in LPS2. They're preparing to engage with the DPLH when the preparation of the improvement scheme commences. So they're getting ready.
And the final question, were any answers provided to the town's questions regarding funding for public realm improvements, community facilities and enabling infrastructure, or on the separate question regarding state government land acquisitions?
Mr Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Thanks for the question. No formal feedback at this stage, but they're matters of interest to the town. I understand they're matters of interest to the Department of Planning as well, and we'll continue to seek feedback through the process. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Minson. Are there any other questions about this item? Just a couple of questions. Noting what it is that is being recommended to be the town's response with regards to the draft Oak Street Station Precinct Structure Plan, do we have an understanding of what will happen to the status of that draft Oak Street Station Precinct Structure Plan while the department takes the time that it's planning to take, however long that might be, to decide to move to the improvement scheme, assuming that that's the resolutions that will subsequently pass? So in other words, is our draft Oak Street Station Precinct Plan going to sit in somebody's inbox for a very long time while we wait to find out what an improvement scheme is going to look like for the Carlisle and the Oak Street Station precincts? Mr Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. It won't. It definitely won't be sitting in somebody's inbox unread. I'm extremely confident it'll be the opposite, which it'll be a heavily read and utilised document that informs the improvement scheme. Yep.
But in terms of its status, does it mean, in short, that we're not going to get approval for that document at all because of this decision by the state government?
Yes.
Is that the upshot of it all?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. The answer to that is yes, it will not be approved by the state government.
Thank you. My next question is, can we send a bill to the state government for all the money we spent on preparing it, which is now largely just borne by us and will not produce a precinct structure plan? Mr Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon.
You could say we can try, but you don't think we'll be successful, and I'll have to take that.
I'll take that on notice. Thanks, Mayor Vernon.
Thank you. My final question is, given the state government's decision to proceed with an improvement plan that effectively almost merges their space, given that the Carlisle and the Oak Street Station are not 800 metres apart from each other, so they're two concentric circles, and we've done an Oak Street Station precinct plan and we did some separate work in our town planning scheme around the Carlisle train station. Is it your understanding that the improvement scheme that is expected to follow will be an improvement scheme separately for each two station precincts, trying to recognise they are different, or is it likely to be one improvement scheme that melds these two station precincts together into one improvement scheme? Or we just don't know yet. Mr Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. My understanding, and this may change, and this is just my my early understanding, is that in the letter that was provided, which forms an attachment to this report, the work that's being undertaken involves 10 station precincts, of which Carlisle and Oak Street is being treated as one, and that only one improvement scheme will be prepared across all of those station precincts, and that the scheme will effectively hold 10 chapters or divisions that relate to each of those station precincts. Carlisle and Oak Street will not be treated separately, they'll be treated as one.
Thank you. From what you've said, it sounds like we're talking like at least 12 months or more away before we see anything akin to an improvement scheme for this area. What then will happen to the development applications that come through and go to the WA Planning Commission in the interim? Will it be the case that the WA Planning Commission, because they won't have an improvement scheme to look to, would they be inclined to look at our draft Oak Street Station precinct plan, or will they just proceed on the basis that no such precinct structure plan exists and otherwise deal with any application that comes along largely as though there's just the town planning scheme and state level strategies? Mr. Doy.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. The Oak Street precinct structure plan, we were waiting on the Department of Planning to provide consent for us to commence formal advertising of the Oak Street precinct structure plan. After formal advertising, we would have presented that to council for approval based upon changes during that process, which would then have given a status to that precinct structure plan as seriously entertained. Seriously entertained document can be used to guide the assessment of a development application. Haven't reached that stage, so therefore the Oak Street precinct structure plan can't be used to inform an assessment on development application. Therefore, we would be assessments would be undertaken against LPS2 in its current form and our policies.
Thank you. Do we have any information as yet from either the WAPC or the department of which of these stations' improvement scheme, on the basis that a resolution will be passed to have a scheme in due course once they've had their feedback on the improvement plan, do we have an idea of which station is going to get priority for the first improvement scheme, or do you anticipate the department will be planning on producing an improvement scheme for each of the 10 stations at the same time as each other? Mr. Doy.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. I'm speculating. My understanding is they will, and again, please take this as speculation from me, that the improvement scheme will be set up to facilitate the 10 stations, but has the ability to be constructed incrementally. I don't know the order of that.
I understood from media reports that the Western Suburbs Councils, whose train stations were mentioned in the media release, came together and made a joint submission to the WA Planning Commission. Have we had any informal discussions with any of those councils about the steps they took and what responses they got so far, Mr. Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. No, I actually haven't been in contact with any of those councils. I'm not aware of that, so that's something that we can find out.
And I say that because, if memory serves me correct, the media reports indicated the Western Suburbs Councils had gotten together and I think they might have had legal planning advice about their submission that they ought to make. So leave that one with you. So finally, with regards to this, does the town have knowledge of which parcels of land that are within this precinct, like the 800 metre station precinct of both our stations, that belongs to the state of Western Australia, either as the Crown or the WA Planning Commission as the listed owner of it? And if we don't have that information immediately to hand, is that information we can acquire? Mr. Doy.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Yep, that information is all able to be obtained on our InfraMaps system.
Thank you. That leads to a follow-up question. If it appears that there are a reasonable number of land holdings in that area that belong to the state of Western Australia through any of its entities, is that a fact that we could consider using in our response to the WAPC about why we would like to see some more priority given to our precinct structure plan, given that if they're a significant landholder and that land is not being developed, then we might be right to turn to them and say, you're actually a significant landowner that needs to be developing land in this area. Mr. Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. That is, council it's at council's discretion to include that in the recommendation, and the amount of state-owned land would be a key determining factor in wanting to have an improvement plan and scheme.
All right, so could we do it on the basis that we take on notice how much Crown or state government owned land is in that nominated 800 metre precinct area to go into the agenda for the ordinary council meeting? So if the answer is they only own one block of land, we might not want to do anything about it. Could we do it that way, Mr. Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Yes, we can take that on notice and include that in the further considerations part of the report.
Thank you. Are there any other questions about this item from anyone? Councillor Minson?
Thank you, Mayor Vernon. Just a follow-up question. It's a question about, I guess, the application of the planning framework after an improvement scheme would be in place, and I guess what takes precedence and how, I guess, our scheme would interact. And I guess specifically, if we had a development contribution plan or, a community benefit strategy or, a way for the town to collect funds towards its public infrastructure, would that be able to be applied to land within an improvement scheme?
Mr. Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon, and thanks for the question, Councillor Minson. The answer to that is no.
Any further questions about this item? Councillor Cruiser?
Would policies like our sustainable development policy apply to that improvement area?
Mr. Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. In terms of the application of local planning policies, I'm quite confident that, again, my answer is no. And maybe just to, sorry, that was an abrupt answer that I gave before, but maybe to provide an extension to that, the improvement scheme is effectively carving out an area of the town that will be the subject of a new scheme. But what I'll do is, in terms of the application of local planning policies, I will take that on notice just to be certain that they don't apply. I feel confident that they don't, but I'd like to take that on notice.
All right, we'll take that on notice. Anything further, Councillor Cruiser? No? Any other questions about this item? No? All right, well, we had no other items on the list for which there were questions. Item 15 was committee reports. There were none. Item 16, motion of which previous notice has been given. There are none. Item 17, it's time to commence public participation time again. Open it at 7:14 p.m, but noting there are no members of the public in the public gallery, I'll close public participation time at 7:14 p.m. Item 18, questions from members without notice on general matters. Are there any such questions? I've got a question for the Chief Operations Officer. The town would be aware that we have had emails sent through to certainly to the Jarrah ward councillors and myself regarding the recent destruction night on night of some youngish trees at Mazzini Reserve, which appear to have been cut down unlawfully and by way of vandalism. I know that the town provided some information today in answer to an email that I'd sent through, but what is the position with regards to these trees? Has the town actually determined if it appears they've been vandalised, and I'm assuming they now have to be removed? Ms Libicus?
Yes, certainly the evidence on site looked to be like they were vandalised, and the team have actually put together a Halliwell value for those trees, and we'll be including that in the police report.
Thank you. Are you able to tell us whether these were trees that were planted in the 2025 planting season, or are they a bit more mature than that? Ms Libicus?
I will take that one on notice, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from members without notice on general matters? Councillor Minson?
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, on the similar topic of the Mazzini Reserve vandalism, question on outside. I just noticed driving in today, there's a mobile CCTV unit, and that looks like moved around and set up around the town. I was just wondering, do we own that? Are we hiring that? Is that something we have the operational ability to move?
That one out there in the car park's a higher one, but I'll go to Ms Labicus about what resources we have in that regard.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so that one's hired. We don't actually have any mobile units in our fleet at the moment.
Anything follow up from that, Councillor Minson?
Yeah, just following up on that. I guess, so have we hired it for a period, and do we have the ability to move it to another area of the town? And also, if not, is it something we could hire one for, say, Mazzini Reserve as a kind of a
Yes,
problem?
Ms Labicus?
Sorry, Mayor. So to move it it requires cranes and all sorts of things. We've actually procured that for a period of 3 months through our security contract partner, and they do have different formats and things. So some that are not so big and cumbersome, some that are trailer mounted, and other things. So that we do have options available should we want to do that.
Anything further, Councillor Minson?
No, thank you.
I might follow up from that. Has the town formed a view at this stage about whether it is looking at taking some action in relation to Mazzini Reserve, given that what's been reported to elected members is that these trees have been cut down night after night, including last night, another one. So just wondering if we are giving consideration to putting in some potential temporary CCTV, only, I assume, largely for the purpose of gathering evidence, but nonetheless, it might be something the town is not looking at doing. Mr Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. In terms of putting in a mobile CCTV, that might be something for the Chief Operations Officer to consider, but we do have quite excellent CCTV coverage in the area through the CCTV Partnership Program. So there's a number of houses in and around Mazzini that have quite good coverage and have been able to play a part in understanding what's potentially been going on out at Mazzini in the surrounds. Other actions that we have already taken is to, in response to not only the incident with the trees, but sort of a growing concern in the area, is to support the development of our East Victoria Park Neighbourhood Watch Group as well. Again, focus in and around that area. The group already now consists of 80 households, and they have a shared WhatsApp group. And the town on Sunday met with a range of people from that group and facilitated a session. So we have supported the development of that group. The critical message that we've provided to that group and others in that area is to report incidents to police. In order for police to take action, incidents need to be reported, otherwise they don't know. So it's not enough to observe, we need to report incidents to police. The town also has been in touch with the Department of Housing as well. We're progressing with Department of Housing.
All right, thank you. Is the town looking at making any public statements or communications to the broader community about the vandalism of our park trees at Mazzini Reserve? Mr Doy?
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. And not that I am aware of that we were going to do a public announcement. It has been focused on the local community in that area.
Okay, could I just ask, would the town potentially consider making a public statement or publicising this for the purposes of drawing attention and maybe alerting some people in the near and surrounding areas to be on the lookout? And obviously, if this is happening as a result of someone who's got, I don't know, a problem with trees on our parks, as opposed to people who are engaging in antisocial behaviour, it might be a means of shining a light on what's going on and getting more people involved in keeping their eyes out. Is that something a town might consider?
Thanks,
Mr. Doyle.
Mayor Vernon. That is something that we can consider, but there are potential consequences of that as well. So I'll take it on notice and we'll provide a response.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from elected members without notice? Councillor Biondi.
Thanks, Mayor Vernon. Just on the Mazzini matter, does the town have any local laws with respect to destruction of trees? And if so, are there any penalties if it is proven that someone has in fact perpetrated that act? And what are those penalties?
Mr. Doyle.
The town has tree management policy, which includes provisions around unlawful removal of trees and the application of the Halliwell value and so on. So maybe to provide like a fulsome response as to what the penalties, but also the process is and how it applies, and the success and or considerations on how to actually, the potential for success to get offenders. Sorry, that's poorly worded, but you know what I mean. Maybe we can provide a little bit more detail about that.
That's also the case, Councillor Biondi, that it is vandalism of the town's assets, albeit that they're green assets. It's a criminal offence, hence the reason for getting the Halliwell value, because if the police are able to find the perpetrators and they charge them, they'll be able to ask for criminal damage to the value of our infrastructure that was lost from the perpetrator, as well as whatever other penalties might apply for criminal damage. So there is that. But I think might be our activities on public thoroughfares and trading local law that has some generic clause, if memory serves me correct, in it about damaging town infrastructure. But that, of course, would require the town to bring a prosecution under that local law, and that might potentially be a harder ask for the town than relying upon the investigative and prosecutorial powers of the WA Police. Anything further from anyone? Elected member questions without notice? No. All right. There being no other questions, we'll move on to item 19, which is confidential matters. We have none. And so there being no other business at 7:23, we'll declare the agenda briefing forum is closed. Thank you, everyone, for the first forum back for the year. Thank you to those who joined us on live streaming. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time at the ordinary council meeting. Thanks, everyone. We're adjourned for the night.